Okay, so welcome everybody. If we can rise for the pledge, please, before we start. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all and welcome to the March meeting of the Philipstown Town Board. We do have a public hearing that we have to do at 7 p.m., so we're going to start with that. Tara, you want to go ahead?
Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the Town Board of the Town of Philipstown on March 2nd, 2023 at 7 p.m. at the Philipstown Town Hall, 238 Main Street, Cold Spring, New York. The purpose of the public hearing is to hear comments for or against Hudson Highland Reserve's application for alternate road standards, which requests Town Board approval of certain alternate road standards pursuant to Town Code Chapter 150-16 to authorize construction of a road at 12% grade where the maximum grade permitted is 10%. A complete copy of the application is available for inspection upon request, sent to townclerk@philipstown.com, and is also available on the town's website, philipstown.com, dated February 22nd, 2023, by order of the Town Board, Tara K. Percocello, Town Clerk.
Okay, so we did have lengthy discussion at several meetings about the alternate road standard for Highland Reserve. Would you guys like to state anything, say anything, present anything? Hi, Glenn.
Glenn Watson from Beatty and Watson, representing the applicant. It's a habit I haven't broken for 40 years probably. But at any rate, this project is a 210-acre project in 24 lots. There are access points on 3 town roads and 1 state road. The access point from East Mountain Road south is at a very steep precipice of the lands, very high up, lands that are really not developable. They're set aside to be in conservation easement. So that was eliminated as an access point from the get-go. The other 2 access points are at the very end of Horton Road, a town road. There was significant opposition from neighbors, and we also have a physical problem. And some of the grades on Horton Road are such that they're very steep, steeper than we're asking for tonight, and so that was eliminated from consideration early on. We never really considered access from East Mountain Road north until late in the game, but we did consider that. We did look at it, and again, there was considerable opposition to the plan to come in from East Mountain Road north, and there was some constraints that we had to deal with. Wetlands there were significant wetlands right across. As you may know, there's a stream running right along the edge of the road. There's some steep slopes coming in there. It was physically doable, but again, lots of constraints that added up. So that left us with the frontage on Route 9. And at the original application, the former PEMCORT building, and I don't know what they call it now, that wasn't part of the property. There was an objection to the proximity to Clove Creek because the frontage on Route 9 is next to Clove Creek. So the applicant actually bought the PEMCORT property, and we were then able to move the road away from the stream and avoid that. So we were faced with basically one option, and that is to come in from Route 9. And to do that, we have to have a grade that is steeper than the basic town code allows, which is 10%. We're asking to go to 12%. Now, you should understand that a 100% grade is not straight up in the air. 100% grade is a 45-degree angle. So we're talking about a 12% grade. as opposed to 10. So that means, basically, that means we're asking to put an extra 2 feet of rise for every 100 feet of run. We're asking for it to go over approximately 1,000 feet of the entry road. So that would give us access from Route 9 up, access from Route 9 into the property. The access would be directly on Route 9. We've been working with DOT in order to configure a intersection that would work. The grade was chosen because it minimizes the cut and fill. I don't want to say there's not significant cut and fill, because there is, but it does minimize it. And it minimizes the, as was found in the environmental impact statement and the finding statement, it's minimizes those more significant impacts along Horton Road, East Mountain Road north. Nobody ever really even considered East Mountain Road south. So we're asking for the exception that's available to us under the law for alternate road standards. We are building a private road. Private road will be built to town standards. It will be paved. It will be fully equipped with all of the drainage and other accoutrements necessary to make the road work. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Glenn, I appreciate it. First of all, I'd just like to point out that we do have several roads in the town of Philipstown that exceed 12%. We have roads that exceed, I believe, 19%. Esselborn is 19%, I think, one section.
That's right.
So
And
it's not unusual. So we did request that the North Highlands Fire Department produce a letter, which we have from the North Highlands Fire Department. I had spoken to the chief about it, but we did get a written response that they're okay with it. And I also had asked you guys to produce a letter from Haldane that the buses would be able to make it through that section as well. So we did get a letter from both of them. I will open it up to the board. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
No, I think that was my concern, was emergency vehicles getting up and the buses, but I think they're fine with it, so I don't have any further concerns.
Just by way of the Haldane School, what they also found out from Haldane School is they don't go on private roads. They won't go up there.
So they're, right.
Right.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that. Thank you. Bob?
Well, it's just on the map, where's the entrance to Route 9? Right,
It's
that's
Route
where I
9.
thought it was. So, I mean, we got plenty of straightage along that entrance for Route 9. It's very, very
The
clear.
sight distance at that intersection point is very good.
Yeah, it is. Is that the same entrance what's there today that goes into Pemcor? Or-
No, it's Pemcort's entrance is here on this side of the building.
Okay, so you're going to go south of that?
Go to south, closer to the bridge, yes.
Or is that other entrance that's in Pemcor today going to still be active, or is it going to be considered going to close?
We are not proposing it to be closed, but we're not adverse to it if DOT wants it.
That would remain the access to the Pemcor building.
Well, we are providing
Oh, you are?
Yes,
So
we are
there is.
providing
Okay.
access off of this road, and we're willing to, if that's what DOT wants, we'll close it.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up, because you have two entrances within 100 feet of each other on 9 now.
Gotcha.
Right.
That's only my concern there.
Right.
Okay?
Meg?
No, I think, like what John mentioned, there's plenty of roads in Philipstown that are above the 12%, so I'm in complete agreement.
All right, we'll open it up to the public. Does anybody have a comment they'd like to make? If they have any comments, please step up to the microphone
And introduce yourself.
and just give us your name, please, and thank you.
Constancia Romilly, often known as Dinky Romilly. I'm late to the game on this. I just have a question. Is this low-cost housing? What kind of housing is this? 124 houses.
First of all, it is not low-cost housing, but it's not 124, it's 24. Not 100, not 124, 24. Not low cost, no. It's, yes.
Anyone else? Crazy. Everybody's here for Matteo. Well, that's why I'm here. Okay, Steve, would you like to, any comment?
Well, are you going to close the public hearing or not, or?
I guess we will. There's no more public comment. Nothing else from the board. We'll close the public hearing. Can we get a motion to close the public hearing?
I make a motion, we close the public hearing.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Okay, so the next step in the alternate road standards application is for the board to reach a determination as to whether or not to grant the alternate road standards request. The code, Town Code 150-16, sets forth two criteria on applications like this, one of which has multiple alternative subparts. The first criteria is whether the road standards will, and bear with me, I'm going to just read this, provide convenient traffic circulation, reasonable safety for vehicular traffic, adequate access for fire protection and other emergency services, and a reasonable maintenance responsibility, all substantially in accord with the purpose and intent of this article. So that's very much the things you've been talking about, the grade of the road, where it is, whether it's adequate for emergency vehicles, and the like.
And it will remain private with regard to maintenance. That will be in the homeowners association.
Right.
Yes, I'm sure there'll be some sort of undertaking.
We did
as
discuss
far
that at
as
the last meeting as well.
maintenance.
Confirmed that, yes.
Okay, Steve, I have one question. Say 20 years down the road, down from here, is it possible for that road to become a public road taken over by the town?
Only if the town board accepts a offer of dedication.
It won't be us 20 years.
No, I know, I know that, but I'm just, you know, I know, I'm just saying it's a possibility. I just wanted to make sure. That's all.
The second criteria is a little broadly worded, and these are all in the alternative. So the board would have to make a finding that the alternate standards will either A, enable construction of a project of unusual design or merit, or B, avoid substantial damage to the environment, or C, enable access to a public facility, or D, achieve an overriding public purpose or benefit, or E, be more appropriate to handle a large volume of traffic and/or, of volume of vehicular traffic or other unusual traffic conditions. So in order for the board to grant the permit, you're going to have to, if that's what the board's pleasure, and if you want to deny it, you'll also have to tell me what the findings are. You have to make those two findings, and then I'll draft up a resolution, either granting or denying it, and we can proceed from there. You do not have to decide tonight. You just close the public hearing. You can mull it over till the next meeting if you want, or if the board's so inclined, you can tell me what your findings are now, and we can have a resolution for your next meeting.
Well, I feel that they've met the criteria. I think this is the best access off of Route 9 rather than any of the other approaches. And I think they've proven that the accessibility is there for the emergency vehicles and other emergency vehicles as well as school buses and other traffic. So I would support us approving the exception to the 10% grade. So that's my feeling. Anybody else?
I agree. I just have one other question. If after these houses are built and there are students that need to get to Haldane, they could get picked up at the bottom of the road on Route 9, correct?
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
Anyone?
I mean, I agree as well, because this access road avoids having to use East Mountain Road as the access road. So, what you mentioned, E, it's more appropriate for vehicular traffic, seems pretty clear.
So, Judy?
No further comment, I agree.
Meg?
So-
No, I agree.
Okay. So, Steve, I would suggest that we would produce a resolution and we can vote on it. We can do it next Wednesday. We have a meeting. Well, do we have one yet, Tara? We're not 100% sure. I'm sure we will.
I'm sure we'll get one by the end of tonight, John.
Seems like that, yeah. So we could produce it next Wednesday and we could vote on it next Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, great.
Okay. So that's that. Okay, so it's not often we get to do things that are a lot of fun here. But this is one thing that is a great joy for me, and I'm sure for the rest of the board. And I'd like to thank Councilwoman Cotter for making the suggestion that we honor this young man this evening, Matteo. So, Matteo, I think I've known you since you were in preschool with Ryan at Mrs. Padilla's, but I can start thinking about your basketball career, and I can remember going to a Haldane Garrison modified game, and I'm like, oh, come on, we're playing Garrison. And you destroyed us. I think you put 60 points up yourself. And I can remember coming home and I said to Ryan, we got to make sure that kid comes to Haldane. He cannot go across the river. This has got to happen. And I'm sure we could have produced some cash if we needed to get you here. We didn't have to do that. And I'm very thankful that you did come here. So it's been a pleasure to watch you not just develop as a basketball player, but as a young man. And you are such a role model to the other kids in the school. When Coach Verge was reading off your GPA, I was like, oh my God, this kid's not just this fantastic athlete and a gentleman to everybody, but he's also a wonderful student. So I'd applaud you for the work that you've put in. I do have to comment about last night's game, Coach. I nearly died a few times. I watched poor Joe down below us, and it looked like his head was going to come off his shoulders a few times. But in the end, you guys won. And for me, the highlight of your career and for the Haldane basketball season would be to see you guys beat Tuckahoe on Saturday. So it doesn't matter after that. And I wish you success. But as long as you beat Tuckahoe and send them home losers, I'll be happy. That's going to be all over. But thank you so much. So we're going to bring you up here, and we're going to read this off. So if you'd like to come up, we'll go to the mic. Tara made it big enough so I can see it. Mom and Dad, would you like to come up as well? So why don't you hold this? God, I feel short. Yeah. Mom and Dad, you want to come up? No, you good? Can you hear me, Seal? Okay, so whereas Matteo Cervone is a 4-year member of the Haldane Varsity boys basketball team, averaging 21 points per game, 9.2 rebounds per game, and 3.1 assists per game, as he leads the Blue Devils in scoring for 2022-2023 season. And whereas Matteo, this season, became the 7th boys basketball player to score 1,000 points, plus 20 last night, right? 1,092 plus 20. So who's keeping track? Whereas in his 4-year varsity basketball career, he was a 3-time All-League, All-Conference, and All-Section player with All-State second team and league MVP in 21, 22, and helped his team to become the league champions 4 years in a row. And whereas Matteo's hard work off the court has led to many accomplishments, including becoming a member of the National Honor Society, maintaining a 98 GPA, that's hard to believe, and achieving principals list throughout his school career. And whereas Matteo's hard work, dedication, and determination has helped him become the heart of the team and the face of the program. Now, therefore, the Town Board of Philipstown, on behalf of all its residents, recognizes this bright and outstanding young man for his many accomplishments and specifically his achievement of scoring 1,000 plus points as a member of the Haldane Blue Devils varsity basketball team. Congratulations. That wins Saturday. Now go home and get some rest, will you please? All of you, beat it. Go get some sleep. Thank you. Thank you. Good luck Saturday. Go get them, boys. Thank you, Coach. Go get them. Okay, so I think the bulk of the crowd's here for the presentation from Pulp. And first of all, I'd like to start off by welcoming the Village of Nelsonville, Mayor Winward, and Mayor Foley from the Village of Cold Spring, and her board is on her way. This meeting was supposed to happen the 22nd? No, it's the 22nd. So the weather was not cooperative that night, so we postponed it till this evening. So this is a joint effort, joint request of the three municipalities to produce some answers. So every elected official that's up here and down there has had some constituents complain about their Central Hudson bill, and it was kind of associated with, unfortunately, associated with the collapse of the CCA, and it kind of came at the same time. So a lot of people were blaming it. Oh my God, this is because we were buying that clean power, and now we're back to Central Hudson, and that wasn't the case. So we tasked Jason to go out and find some information, and Jason found PULP, which is Public Utility Law Project, excuse me, and Laurie Wheelock, who's here tonight, who's going to make a presentation from PULP to give us a description as to what exactly did happen in their opinion, and hopefully clarify a lot of our questions about the Central Hudson bill. I know myself, I had an astronomical bill 2 months in a row. I called. I did get a gentleman on the phone, explain the whole process to me. When I got off the phone with him, I was content that I had paid for what I was supposed to pay for. So I wasn't angry any longer, but it took a while for that to recoup and to come back into line. We did invite Central Hudson to be here this evening, so it would be a fair presentation from both sides. They denied, but they did send a letter. It's quite lengthy. I'm not going to read the whole letter. It is available. There's copies up here, and it's also going to be on the website. I can basically summarize it to the best of my ability. So Central Hudson, in this letter, they acknowledged that there was problems and challenges with the implementation of the customer info system. When the customers contacted them, they said they addressed it, and the bills that were inaccurate, sometimes much larger or missed by a few months, they were corrected. Things they've done so far to correct the situation: they've added an additional 100 new team members. They've held open houses. They're also on social media. Central Hudson, in their own terms, has spent millions to correct this problem, and none of it is at the ratepayers' funds. So this is a question that we had in our presentation originally. You spent this money. Who's recouping it? Who's funding this whole situation? Is it the shareholders or is it the customers? So, in their claim that it's not the customers, it's the shareholders. So, they also stated that they do not produce electricity themselves, so they're subject to the market as well. So when the market goes up, the cost of the electricity, they pass it on with no profit to themselves. And they closed the letter with saying that they are available to meet with any of us anytime we'd like to discuss it. But we asked them tonight, we asked tonight, and they're not here, as you can see. The other thing I wanted to point out is somebody that's dealt with them on the emergency side. There is nobody better than Central Hudson when it comes to the line work and the people that we have working here. During Hurricane Irene and Hurricane Sandy, I was in the Emergency Operations Center listening to what was going on with NYSEG on the other side of the county. We are much better off having Central Hudson here, putting our lines back up. We have some great crews. Their foreman locally, this guy's name is Gene. Amazing guy. I mean, he's out there like this, and we've had a steady run of them for a long time. The contacts that we deal with, Kerry Pratt, very responsive, has been out here, helped us with electric charging station. So this is by no means a reflection on the teams that are on the ground here, or the production and the supply of electricity that they're giving us. So that's all I have to say. Jason, would you?
Yeah. So I think there's probably a lot of people in this room that have experienced billing errors. That's probably why some folks are here. As you'll hear from Laurie in a moment, over 4,000 people have filed official complaints with the New York State DPS. That is an incredibly high amount, and for a lot of the things people have probably experienced. No bills for months at a time, and then a very large bill, inaccurate bills based on wrong estimations, uncharacteristically high bills. So all of us at every municipal level have probably been hearing about these, and for people who are on fixed incomes, this can be something that is dangerous because people are scared about electricity being shut off. And so we were were, very, very lucky to be connected with Laurie Wheelock, Executive Director of the Public Utility Law Project. They are a nonprofit organization that's been advocating for utility customers, affordability and utility customers protection since 1981. And I think the whole point of this was to hear from Laurie, to have residents afterwards who have experienced billing errors share those and put them on the record, to learn what you can do if you have called in that problem to Central Hudson and they have not solved it, what steps you should take, and then to discuss a local resolution to try to make sure that Central Hudson fixes this the wrong way. And I guess the only thing I would say, I agree with John that we are all thankful. This is separate from being thankful for Central Hudson putting the lines up in emergencies and doing delivery, which I think we're all thankful for. But when you hear back from the state investigations and the findings, it's hard not to be pretty outraged about what has happened here and how it is due to a $88 million software billing malfunction. And so John's point about it not being connected to CCA, but it being connected to a software billing thing that went wrong is very true. And I think, another thing we'll hear from is that Central Hudson has billed ratepayers for that $88 million software malfunction to the tune of about $23 million. And so I think part of the conversation is that Central Hudson should fix these problems, but they shouldn't do it on the backs of ratepayers anymore. They should be going back to their parent company, Fortis, that is in the middle of a 48th year of consecutive profits, or go back to investors that are getting back 10% on their equity investments right now. And I think that'll be part of the local resolution. But I just want to thank everybody for being here and turn it over to you, Laurie. Or are we ready to turn it over? Oh, yes. Okay.
Well, Seal's going to yell.
We cleared it with it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, we did.
She gets very testy.
So, good evening, everyone. My name is Laurie Wheelock. I go by she, hers pronouns, and I'm the Executive Director of the Public Utility Law Project. We go by PULP for short. And in the energy world, there's a lot of acronyms, so if I start to use some, feel free to just shout and I'll explain what it is. But we're here tonight to talk about Central Hudson, and it's so wonderful to see so many of you out here. Our organization, as Jason explained, is a nonprofit. Our entire mission is to advocate, educate, and litigate on behalf of New York's low-income utility customers. This is our contact information, and the most important piece on this slide is the orange hotline number. We don't charge for our services, just like legal aid. If you need assistance, if you know a neighbor, a friend who's on a fixed income or is low income, you can have them contact our hotline, and we actually assist them. So if they're falling behind on their Central Hudson bill or they have issues with Verizon, we deal with all the utilities that go into making your home safe. So tonight we're going to talk about a myriad of things, and unfortunately what happened was kind of like a perfect storm. Central Hudson ended up having significant billing issues, which today we're still not sure if they're fully corrected. There's also been a lot of volatility in energy prices. I mean, you look at the fuel, you look at the Central Hudson prices, it all kind of goes together, right? Everything that's happening in the world, inflation rates, things like that. And then you all also had some issues with the CCA. So it was like all this kind of happening at the same time. So what happened? So several years ago, Central Hudson actually went through an audit, and their company decided that to improve customer experience, they should invest in a new computer information system, a CIS, if you will. And that's like the technological guts of the utility. It's how they track the meter readings, it's how they track your billing, it's how they charge you. And so they sought approval to upgrade the system. They got it approved, and they decided to move forward with it. They had a go-live date of September 1st, 2021. Our organization, again, has a hotline, and so right around June, July of 2021, we started getting an increase from Central Hudson calls. And again, we're statewide, so you get a few a day, and you're like, okay, something's happening. We couldn't figure out what was going on. After September 1st, we started to get a lot more, and it finally came out, I believe in the press first, that it was this computer information system upgrade that resulted in a bunch of billing issues. So by March of 2022, we sent a letter to the Department of Public Service, which is the government agency in New York that oversees all the utilities. And we explained, we said, hey, something is going on here. We're getting all these increases in calls and complaints. Will you please investigate? March 16th of 2022, the Public Service Commission issues an order to start investigating the company. They then start to have the Office of Information Enforcement actually do the investigation. And the staff did a fantastic job. I don't know if anyone's read the investigatory report, but they went through thousands of pages. They talked to staff. There were, as Jason said, over 4,000 complaints that are on the public computer system. And so they started to investigate what was going on. They talked to staff at all levels. At the same time as they were kind of investigating, we continued to monitor. We continued to respond to people who were having issues, trying to work with the company, and go through what's called the state complaint process. By February of last year, that's when winter energy prices started to soar, and they really haven't gone down. Energy prices have continued to rise through the summer and then into the winter. In May of 2022, there was a public hearing in Ulster County. Some of the elected officials, including now Congressmember Ryan, called their own public meeting to get people to share their stories, and then they put that through to the state to get things on the record to show the wide breadth of issues people were experiencing. We went to that hearing and we were really concerned. We were hearing stories about customers who were calling to try and get resolution. One woman got transferred and the transfer call didn't stay within the company, but actually got sent outside of the company to a private residence who then called her back and said, "How did you get my number? You left your information on my answering machine." So there were breaches of privacy and thousands of dollars being removed from people's bank accounts. So our organization started to collect those stories and started to break them down by topic. And we sent a letter in July of 2022 to the Public Service Commission asking that they include these different scenarios in their investigation. By December of 2022, we figured the investigation was probably getting close to an end, but we'd been doing a lot of research, and to be honest, we'd never seen anything like this. It was significant, it seemed to be still happening, so we filed a motion. We actually filed a motion with the state and said, as soon as the staff is done with their investigation, we'd like you to consider assessing penalties. Actually look and see what the company has done, see if they deserve to be penalized, and to assure that ratepayers are made whole. On December 15th, the Department of Public Service released their investigation, and the findings were quite egregious in our opinion. They started with facts. They recognized that the company back in 2017 had this idea, yes, we want to upgrade our computer system. They sought approval. They were supposed to stay in touch with the state as far as moving forward with it, and they estimated that it would probably be around $96 million to do this job. The PSC granted this back in June of 2018, and then the company started to move forward. They found a third-party contractor called Ernst Young, and they were supposed to go live August 14th, 2020, but they pushed it back. Staff in the testing phase felt very uncomfortable, and this again goes to, what the town was saying. This is not the staff workers. This is higher up. The higher ups were saying, move forward, move forward, move forward. The investigation actually has chats, like computer messages between staff members in the report that show that people felt uncomfortable and didn't want the company to go forward. They didn't feel well trained, they didn't feel prepared, and they were nervous about moving forward. The department then looks into the billing issues, and they confirmed. They said that there were several different themes that people were experiencing. Overcharges, delayed bills. Some customers would just not get a bill for several months at a time. Other customers had automatic withdrawals where the company would remove large sums of money, sometimes multiple times a month when it usually was once, from their accounts. And they estimated that together there was about $16 million withdrawn from people's bank accounts during this part of time where they were investigated. They also recognized that the customer service center was really struggling. People were not trained. They didn't have enough staff to answer people's calls. A lot of people would be on hold for several minutes, some 45, 50. We heard of cases where it was hours. And so the department investigation saw these themes that we also were seeing. There was also significant issues with community solar. A lot of towns, a lot of customers were starting to buy into community solar, and the billing between the community solar project and the company and the charges were getting a little askew. There are also energy service companies who do like a third-party supply. One of them that deals with Central Hudson is called Agway, and Agway was starting to have billing issues with Central Hudson as a supply company. So they actually reached out to the state as well and said, hey, we're having billing issues. Can you also investigate what's happening with us? The investigation then confirms several of the themes we're talking about. There were significant system defects. There was inadequate training of the staff. There was inadequate testing of the computer system before they went live. And there was a lack of candor with the public. And this is something that was really upsetting. A lot of us are still upset with the fact that they were out there not acknowledging that there was a problem at first. They were saying, oh, it's supply issues. You know, what's happening out, in Russia and Ukraine is affecting us here. And yes, that was part of it, but they didn't come out early on and say, you know what, we did a system upgrade, we're having issues, bear with us. And so that lack of candor is a really important aspect of the investigation. The department report then goes through the public service law, which is the main law here for regulating utilities in New York, and it identifies different aspects that the staff believe were violated, and that's really important. That goes with our concern. We weren't part of the investigation, but from what we were seeing in the widespread problems, we had concerns that the law was being violated. And they pointed to many of the different areas of the law that we also were concerned about. And again, it was a lack of prudence. Did they act rationally? Did they act prudently when they upgraded this system and tried to fix it? The overcharges and delayed billing, has that been corrected yet? When did they catch it? Back billing, that's when they look at your account and go, you know what, we were wrong, and then they go back in time and correct you. So if for some reason all of a sudden you got hit with a very large bill, that could be because of this practice, which is called back billing. And then improper estimates, which is a big issue. Central Hudson does have authority right now from the state to do every other month readings. They do estimated bills one month, actual bill readings the next month, and they're supposed to do that, but there's a law in place to make sure that they don't overestimate. And so there were concerns about this, and I'm guessing that some of you may have experienced that. So the report concludes by saying that Central Hudson pushed its employees to go live with this computer system when they knew that their staff wasn't ready and that the system wasn't ready to handle the live date. They then say that the transition problems were foreseeable and avoidable, which goes to that question about prudence. Did they act rationally? In the staff's opinion, there are concerns there. So they recommended that Central Hudson give 30 days to reply, right? They're saying, we see these issues, we have concerns, we think you violated the law. Come back to us in 30 days with a response. And that was their first recommendation. They also wanted to open up a prudence proceeding, which is what Pulp had asked for. We wanted them to be reviewed, we want them to be considered for penalties, and so the staff is making that recommendation, which we support. And then they wanted to actually push Central Hudson to do actual reads every single month. So they asked the company to come back to the state with a plan on what it would look like to do that. And then they also want to make sure that everyone's back billed, corrected, payments are correct, that there's accuracy. The last piece is something that's really important, and I'm hoping you all can help me with, is that this entire investigation will be shared with every other utility in New York State that does electric and gas. Central Hudson was the first to do this computer upgrade, but September of this past year, NYSEG RG&E did it, and now they're having issues. In May, Con Edison, the largest electric utility down in New York City, is supposed to upgrade their system. And so we're all really nervous. And so we've told the state, we're like, please, whatever findings you have, any recommendations you have, looking for patterns. Who is this third-party contractor? How Central Hudson responded or did not respond. Share this information with every other utility so that customers don't go through what the public and the customers of Central Hudson's territory has, and now NYSEG RG&E's. So what happened? Central Hudson took 30 days, they responded, and they, come out with a 92-page reply, which you can find on the Public Service Commission's website, and it's their defense, and they completely have the right to do it. And they go through, and I'll make sure that you all have these slides. We made sure to give them to the town so you can read them and share them with your neighbors, but they pretty much say, you know what? We made mistakes, but we've spent money to try and correct them, and we're trying to get more customer service staff, and we're working with people, and we're making corrections. Do not fine us, because fining us will only hurt us when we're trying to help the public. They then put together a plan to do the actual reads, and they're going to try and do it by phases. That's their proposal. They say, okay, we hear you. We'll try to do actual reads of every customer, but we're going to do it by territory. So they'll go town by town or region by region, but they expect it will take until 2026 to be able to cover the entire Central Hudson territory. So what happens next? On January 24th, so after Central Hudson's reply, Agway Energy, which is that third-party supplier, is called an ESCO, who had complained earlier. They filed a letter, and they said, you know what? We read Central Hudson's response. We're still having billing problems. We still have concerns. We support moving forward with a prudence review. The Public Service Commission is now sitting and reviewing everything that they have in front of them. They're looking at the public record. They're looking at the staff investigation. They're looking at Agway's filing, and they're looking at Central Hudson's reply. And so they are currently deciding what to do. Do they open that prudence review? Do they do fines? Do they not? So we're at a very crucial part of this investigation. One other thing to flag that you probably heard in the news is about 2 weeks ago, Charles Frenny, who was the CEO, did step down, and they have a new CEO of the company. So, wanted to flag that as well. At the same time that the staff investigation was happening through the state, there are other things happening. So Senator Skoufis, he is the chair of the New York State Senate Investigatory Committee, and they looked into all sorts of different issues. So the high energy prices, the Central Hudson billing issues, the CSEA issues, and his staff came out with a report a couple of months ago now that makes recommendations for legislation to try and help prevent issues like this from happening. Lowy and Danberg, a law firm in, I think, the Poughkeepsie area, also is doing a class action lawsuit. So they're looking at different financial harm, negligence, kind of a different type of harm than what the state is investigating. And so there's a class action lawsuit happening now. If you're interested, you can search the law firm's website, and they have an entire section on the class action lawsuit too. So then, what do? Again, we're at a very crucial part of the investigation, and one of the things that will be really helpful is if the state hears from the public. They already have over 4,000, public comments, but the important thing to flag is if you're still having issues. If things have not been corrected, if you're still trying to contact the company and you can't get through, these are all stories that the state needs to hear, because they're at this point where, again, they're trying to figure out, do they open this prudence review? Do they seek penalties? What's happening? If you have an issue, if you get a bill and you're concerned with it, the very first thing you should do under the public service law is contact Central Hudson. Try to resolve it. I know it can be very hard to get through, but try. After that, if you're unable to reach them or you're unable to get a resolution that you feel comfortable with, what PULP says is go with your gut. You have the right to file a complaint with the Department of Public Service. Again, that's that state entity that oversees the utilities. You can file it online, or you can call, tell them what's happening, and they will get involved with Central Hudson and they'll investigate. So that concludes my presentation. It's an honor to be here with you all tonight. I look forward to hearing your stories, and again, we'll remain in contact with the town as things progress. Please feel free to take down our information, and again, if you want to come up and talk to me after, I'll be here. But again, my role now switches from talking to listening, and I really want to hear what you all have been going through. So thank you again for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Laurie. I appreciate it. We're going to open it up to questions. We'll keep them to, we'll limit it to 15 minutes or so. We do have an entire meeting to go through after this, so we'll keep it as quick as possible. So I'll open the floor up. If you could just come up to the mic, we have the expert here. We can ask.
Just state
it's
your
okay.
name, just for the record. Hi, I'm Melissa Potachik. I live in Garrison on South Mountain Pass with my husband Tom. We have received bills all the way through this whole process until December of 2022. We had paid all of our bills, and we received a statement saying that we owed $18,755. The bill came to us as $13,529.39. So I contacted Jason, contacted Central Hudson twice, filed a complaint twice, and they have not returned my calls. They haven't gotten back to me. We filed a complaint with the state, and they emailed and said, you'll hear from Central Hudson soon. Still haven't heard from them. This is going back to December 1st. So we did not pay our bill, and they said they wouldn't turn our service off, that it was okay. Luckily, they haven't. February 20th, I attempted to make a payment because I thought I better at least pay something. I'm getting a little bit concerned here. And I tried paying $500 of that $18,000, and it wouldn't accept it. So I wasn't able to pay it. A week later, I went back on, and it did accept it. A day later, I went onto the website, and it now states that at that point stated that we had negative $5,225 on our account. As of today, we're seeing a bill showing, because I paid that $500 and it actually did accept it this time, we're now at negative $5,725.02. No bill, and if I go onto the system, it's showing that the $18,000 has been reversed, because you can look at the activity throughout, and that we do have that negative $5,725, but when I go to look at view the bill, there's a bill showing from November of 2021 for $471. So there's nothing that's come through, and if we're now at negative $5,700 plus dollars, do we get a refund? Are they going to give that money back to us, or are they going to hold on to that? And yes, there were issues with them coming and not being able to read the meter, or saying that they couldn't read the meter. They would stand there and say they just came, was it last week? A couple of weeks ago?
They couldn't, she read it, the meter's always been available, that she read it but said she didn't have signal, cell phone signal.
So they couldn't send the reading in. So none of the readings were being sent in.
So I showed her where to stand, and then she sent it, so maybe we got an actual.
But this was a back bill. So this was all going back to 2021, November 2021 through I believe it was July 25th of 22 that they were saying was back billed after they had done a reading, but they had not done a reading. It was an estimate.
I actually called and spoke to somebody, and he had me, and I know other people have done this, he had me go out and take a picture of the meter. I have the old meter that, with the numbers and the dial. I took a picture of the meter and I sent it to him, and he compared that on the phone with me to what I'm being billed for. And we ended up coming to a conclusion that I was accurate. But they hadn't billed me for a while. Then I got a bill for $1,300, with nothing like yours. But
this time period, this time frame,
yes.
Going back 10 years,
Right.
And what we paid in that time period was comparable to what we've paid every year previously
and if
for
you
those
look at
10
the
years.
rate per kilowatt, it was
Same.
Yeah, well, it was
Same.
6 cents. Mine, the original one, was like last year at this time. I think it was 6 cents per kilowatt hour. Is that accurate? And then it went to 20, and that's based on the market. So,
Laurie
So
has,
do we get our money back? That's the question.
I can tell you what's going to happen.
yeah, Lori, please, by all means, yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So persistence is key. Couple of things. You are absolutely right. The scary thing is when you're not getting a bill, but you're using the energy, because the way the public service law works is you owe what you use. And so we're in this scary gray period, right, where we're not sure if things are accurate or not. So going back in time and looking at your bills and saying, okay, what roughly do I owe every month? Try and pay it. If you have the incidents where you can't actually pay it, that alone could be a separate complaint. Now, I hear you. It sounds like you have been trying with the complaints and you're not hearing. One of the things we recommend, just to keep it on record and, you know, again, this persistence, is go to the online complaint form, because you can update your complaint. As long as you have your number, you can send an update 3 times a day and be like, I went and I tried and now they're here and they can't read my meter. I tried to pay, they won't take it. Those are all really, really important, and it'll protect you. It's my understanding that Central Hudson hasn't started terminations yet, and they haven't started late fees, but that's kind of open to discussion. And so that is a concern of ours, and I'll remain in touch with the town, because that needs to be spread far and wide when that does happen. So, you know, persistence is key. Make sure you have our number, but stay, you know, online updating it so the state knows exactly what you're going through.
Can I just make a quick comment? One is a comment and then one's just a quick question. One, just for us to all recognize, when that, you know, when John said that it was at 6 cents per kilowatt hour, that was the CCA locked in rate. And so when it jumped from the CCA to the 20-cent Central Hudson default, that does explain some of the increase in cost, because that CCA was locked in at 6 cents. And then, Laurie, Melissa said she, you know, did file an official complaint with the DPS. Do those complaints get forwarded or alerted to Central Hudson? Can filing an official complaint make Central Hudson pay attention more?
Yeah, so legally they are supposed to respond. If it's an emergency, they're supposed to respond between 1 and 2 hours. If it's a non-emergency, so like a billing situation, it's supposed to be 1 to 2 business days.
Hi, Tracy Bounier. We live at 44 Parrott Street. I just want to thank all of you guys for organizing this and all of the hard work that you've done. And thank you so much for your work with Pulp. It's like the first time I've been dealing with this and felt like, oh, someone's like paying attention. It's great. And I read the report and I've read most of Central Hudson's response, but then I got too angry. I had to stop reading. So we didn't get a bill for 8 months, and then we got an astronomical bill, not $18,000, so that somehow makes me feel better. Sorry. We paid it, and then began getting these negative bills, which you're commenting on, and negative $3,000, negative $4,000. Yeah, I know, right? How do I spend this? I really wanted my money back. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to ride this out and enjoy my, credit building back and sort of like free electricity that I paid for a long time ago. The other concern I have is that we did spray foam insulation through NYSERDA about 7 years ago. And that was a program through Central Hudson where you have a low interest loan to pay for the insulation. And so we pay for that through our Central Hudson bill. It has not been paid in the last, 11 months by Central Hudson. And so now we are at risk of being in default on this loan that we don't have any way to pay directly. It can only be paid through Central Hudson. And as someone who really values my credit score, that really is upsetting to me. And I own a business, and so there's other financial issues around that. I've spent, I estimate, about 13 hours on hold with Central Hudson. A lot of times what happens is I'll stay on hold for an hour and a half, and then it gets disconnected. And so it's pretty infuriating. I've kind of given up calling them. I've emailed, I've tried their ridiculous chat feature, which is just a bot and doesn't do anything. I've filed multiple complaints with the DPC or DPS, something like that. And when I look at my Central Hudson account, we have no usage history after May 2022. So for May 2022, there's nothing. And we've lived in our home for 8 years. Like many of you, we were home a lot for a couple of years there. We also both work from home. In those 8 years, I've never seen a Central Hudson person come read our meter. So recently I started taking photos of the meter and trying to upload it on the website. What's that? Trying, yes. So the last month, it took me about 45 minutes to be able to upload one photo. I'm a pretty tech-savvy person. This is definitely a Central Hudson issue. And that's pretty typical. Each month, uploading the photo, it fails, it doesn't work, the website crashes, try again, sorry, we can't accept your photo. And then there's no feedback. Like, there's no, like, we have received your photo. Here is your reading, because I don't have any usage since May 2022. I had one other point that I am losing now, but I just am so frustrated. You know, I mean, it's infuriating that someone can run a business this way. I'm worried about our loan. I'm worried about all this money that we've paid that now is a credit. Oh, the other thing, sorry, one last thing, which is I keep track of our credit on there. It was getting smaller. Like, I think we were down to like $1,800 credit. And yesterday, our bills go through our online banking account, and I got 8 emails in a row from our bank saying, you have a new bill from Central Hudson. You have a new bill from Central Hudson. You have a new bill. And each bill is a different amount. Some are negative, some are positive. And now we owe $1,800. But I don't buy it. Like, I'm not going to pay that. Like, you know, so, and I know you can't like solve this problem for us, but it feels, I'm grateful for the opportunity to just sort of share in the collective misery and infuriation. And I welcome any feedback you have. And thank you to all of you guys for setting this up.
So thank you, Tracy, for sharing that, and I'll make it real quick. This is why events like this are so important, because this is a new harm. I had never heard this before about the loan through NYSERDA and not being able to pay it. So, you know, these are the things we need to know. I believe that this presentation is being recorded. So what I will likely do is I'm going to write a letter to the Department of Public Service saying I attended, I listened to different things, and I would like to submit into the record tonight's presentation and specifically highlight the stories that are shared. And Tracy, we should connect before you leave. I will help you get in touch with NYSERDA, and we will do what we can to try and help you, because this should not be happening. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Constancia Dinky-Romilly. We had the issue with the meter reading. They asked us to take the photograph. Numerous phone calls to the Public Service Commission, you know, the same thing, holding on. I don't have to repeat all these things. The estimated bills. So then my neighbor said, well, we have solar panels. We put solar panels on in December of 21. So our meter is very complicated. You can't just take a picture of the face of it. But they kept insisting. Anyway, I took 8 pictures because it keeps moving. I took the 8 pictures, tried to send that. Same story. Then my neighbor pointed out to me that the meter reader comes on the same day of the month, and he sees the meter reader. So I went out there and I met the meter reader. He gave me his personal phone number. He'd been there every single month, not every other month. He'd been there every single month reading the meters on my road. Yeah, actual readings. He showed me how he does it. You know, he's got this machine. I'm sure you've all, you know, seen that. All right, so then eventually I get a big pack. So every month I wrote them a letter. I'm not paying this. I don't know what this is. This is not accurate. You have to give me, I'm not taking any estimated readings. Same thing I did with the Public Service Commission. Then I get this big packet in the mail, I think maybe in October. It's got a bill for every month from the past year with an actual meter reading listed, and then it says electricity use 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, you know, because of my solar panels. So I'm like, all right. So then I write them, I say, well, so now you owe me money. I'm generating, because I go down there and I look at it. I watch it feeding, you know, the little, I don't know if you have any of you have solar panels, but it's got this little picture of the pole, and then you see your house is feeding the pole instead of the pole feeding you. Last thing I want to say is, please do whatever the council can do, what you can do, what any of us can do to see that Central Hudson gets fined. You know, people can be made whole, but they need to get fined. Jason, did you say the shareholder return is 28% and they have 40 years of profits?
No, I said that based on the state investigation, the software that went wrong has cost $88 million. Ratepayers have paid through their bills for $23 million of that. So we've all been paying for this billing issue. But I was just saying, instead of going to ratepayers, go to the parent company that's had increasing profits for 48 years.
Well, okay, so the thing is, we know that they're blaming this all on the war in Ukraine. The fact of the matter is, these companies continue to make huge profits. Also, you know, they have power. They could do something to generate a negotiated settlement in the Ukraine and Russia, which we can't do as individuals. We can't force the government to do that. So if they're going to keep blaming all this on war that's happening in Europe while they're raking in the profits, you know, it's just not right.
Thank you. I do have one question related to that. You guys represent the entire state. We cover the whole state of New York. The whole state of New York faced the same oil increases. Do the percentage of increases that Central Hudson reflect similar to the other power companies throughout the state? Or are they just camouflaging the $23 million into the war in the Ukraine?
So from what we can tell, it seems very, very similar on that supply side of the bill, right? You have two sides of your bill. When you go home, you know, maybe tomorrow, pull it up, but there's a delivery side and there's a supply side. The supply side is the pass-through. Now, there are some things they can do to help control it. It's called hedging, and this is what Senator Scoof has kind of investigated. The utilities are supposed to forecast. They're supposed to know when energy prices are going up, and they're supposed to do things like power purchase agreements with their supplier to try and keep costs low. And so it is a concern we have. We have asked the state to also investigate that and go utility by utility to figure out if they did do proper hedging. There hasn't been a decision yet, but it's something we keep pushing the governor to help with. The delivery side of the bill is the rates that they actually get approved. And I wanted to flag for the public as well that they have the right to come back and seek a rate increase starting in June of this year. And so if they file for a rate increase, our organization always files as a party anyways, but we will be in touch with you all because we're going to need to have like a significant push to stop this from happening. I don't know how anyone, I mean, again, NYSEG Argini is going through this right now and they're trying to increase rates on their customers and their customers are furious. So I hope that they don't go ahead and file, but they could file in June for a rate increase, and so we'll stay in touch with you all. So we did, and back in, I think, 2016, we actually were able to roll back some of Central Hudson's fixed charges. Those are the ones you see on your bill that are like the same. It's like system benefit charge, all of those. We were able, it was the first time in New York State history we were actually to do that, but it's very rare.
Okay, we'll take a couple more. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, my name is Suzanne Pierce, and I live in Garrison, and I have all the same things, same stories, but I'm not going to repeat it. Hours on the phone, all that kind of stuff. So my first question that I wanted to bring up is why aren't they hedging? So, I mean, it's not that difficult, and they do say in their SEC report that they do not hedge. They just buy it's lazy. They're a transportation company is what they've become. Right. So the parent company being Fortis, I read the SEC report because of all the time that I spent on the phone and I wasn't getting any answers and I didn't want my power to be turned off. So the SEC report that I read maybe 6 months ago does not exist today when I went to pull it up to bring to the meeting. In my history, I went and queried that report has been changed. And specifically, my memory at that of the reading the report, because I thought it was weird. First of all, they say they don't hedge, so why aren't you hedging? Okay, secondly, they mentioned that the losses that they were incurring for, I think it was 2021, and I don't remember the year because I read two reports, and that they're passing it the fees for the new system that we're talking about down to the ratepayers, so to us, so that they could return higher dividends to their shareholders. Very specifically stated in there. Okay, so I'm like, they can do that. So I looked up how much the CEOs are making. So, do I have to tell you how much they're making? Yeah. Oh, it's right. You can no. It's 4 million. The guy that in Central Hudson, 10 million was his predecessor. A year. Okay, so I want to know, why aren't you fining them? That's the only way that they're going to do anything. So they wrote you a letter and said, oh, please don't fine us. Right. Well, I mean, come on. We're all hours. These people, frustration. Fine them. Why aren't we fining them? Yeah. That's my question. Why? And who is responsible for that? That's who we need to pressure.
So the Department of Public Service, again, is the staff that did the investigation. The Public Service Commission is a 7-member body appointed by the governor. It's the commission that's going to make the decision on whether or not to open up this proceeding and do the penalties. So, action like tonight, the resolution, sharing your stories, reaching out to the governor. The lieutenant governor is someone who lives in Central Hudson's service territory, Lieutenant Governor Delgado. So I think, there are some good action item steps there if people are interested in going further. Senator Skoufis in his investigation looked into the hedging and does have some legislative ideas to do like best practices and require the utilities to do actual hedging. So he's another good ally I would recommend that people reach out to.
I just got a quick question. If you do get fined and Central Hudson pays X amount of money, who gets that money? Where's that money go?
So what we recommended in our filing was that, they use specific provisions of the public service law. There's like public service law section 25, 25A. Those fines, the money is collected. Often like the comptroller will open a fund and then the money gets returned to ratepayers. And that's what we're pushing for. We want it to be not collected by the rate base, but actually by the shareholders. And then that money go to the public.
Okay, anything else? Yes.
My name is Christina DiZazio. I'm a Philipstown resident for many years now. I'm in a little bit of a unique situation in that we were renters in Cold Spring, decided to set some roots down, so we purchased a home in July. I closed in mid-July. We didn't receive a bill until the very tail end of December, in spite of me reading the meter, submitting meter readings online. I checked religiously as I was paying all my other bills. There was never anything there. And because the account was brand new, I don't have a history to go off of. I don't know what the energy supply to my home should cost. And then, as everyone else did, received an astronomical bill for a couple $1,000s. Well, I paid it. And within a week's time, received an additional bill for $600. So within a 5-week period of time, I've paid $2,600 to Central Hudson. I contacted them because I needed to understand how is this bill being calculated? What do I expect moving forward? I prepared a spreadsheet for the supply and the delivery costs, and they're not fixed. Every month it changes, and the percentage of delivery cost versus, based on what I'm being charged is actually increasing month over month. So I contacted them and very frustrating. I got in touch with someone who just read a script to me. If you need to be put on a payment plan, it's not what I said. I'm asking you, why am I being charged this? I'm not telling you I can't pay it. So unfortunately, I've found no resolution. I don't know what to expect moving forward. I also called up because I'm submitting meter readings, but still getting estimated bills every other month. So I know exactly how much usage there is. I'm giving that to them. And I couldn't get an answer to that either. But more alarming was on the website, it does say, and I cut and pasted it just because I wasn't sure I'd be able to find it again. But it said, bear in mind, in addition to merchant function charges, the prices given here also do not include energy delivery charges, which are regulated, stable, and apply whether or not you receive energy supply from Central Hudson or an ESCO. And again, I couldn't get an answer as to why those delivery charges are fluctuating, but alarmingly, they keep going up.
Can I add something to that? So in the SEC report, it specifically said that they're charging the ratepayer for the transportation is how they were going to make up for the profit, and they actually had an actual amount in there. So the person you're talking to doesn't know this. They didn't read the SEC report, but I did, and it's not there anymore. So the new SEC report doesn't say that. So now when you look at your fancy brochure on page 11 and 14, those details are no longer there. But it said that when they originally filed it. So they must have made an amendment to it. I couldn't find it.
Well, one thing I will say, we will definitely, as per their letter, they said they're willing to come here and speak with us. We definitely will ask them to come here and answer questions directly. So that will happen. We'll take one more comment. Yes, sir. He was standing. He was standing. Yeah. Yes.
My name is Barry Goggin. I'm with First Street. It's not a big problem, but just yesterday I paid my wife paid the bill for Central Hudson. It wasn't it was a large amount for us, but we paid it anyway. But I received the notice that we paid the bill, and it came from Cooper Easy Pay. My problem being, 6 months from now, when I go to say, hey, I paid my bill, I'm not going to remember that I have a receipt from Cooper Easy Pay. Where did it come from?
No idea.
That's my question.
No idea. Yeah, there you go. We'll ask Central Hudson that. Okay. Oh, yes. One quick one, please. We have a long meeting ahead of us still, so this is it.
So I want to know, I got the notice back in August of 22 that the community CCA is going to be terminated. Wanted to know what's the impact on the bills, because I'm still getting billed occasionally through Nexamp. So any information on that would be appreciated.
So that is messy. And that, again, it kind of goes to the perfect storm, right? So when Columbia Utilities stopped operating in New York, they were supposed to return everyone back to Central Hudson, and the billing was supposed to go with it. But if you're still getting Nexamp, that's a problem. So if you haven't filed a complaint, and I know it's a pain and it can take a while and to get responses, but again, my thing is, especially as an attorney, paper training, getting things in writing, filing complaints, keeping updated. If you file online, you can attach the copies too, so the state sees it. And I think that's honestly the best way to protect yourself right now.
Is it also just worth noting that the CCA rate, that 6 cents that went back to the Central Hudson default, which just floats around, that all of the CCA municipalities are looking at issuing another CCA contract to try to get a more stable rate. So that is coming up.
Okay.
I think Nexamp is not the CCA.
No, it's not.
It's not.
Nexamp is a separate.
It is.
It's a solar farm.
That's right.
That was the other program. That was an opt-in program that you could buy into. Thank you.
That's
Thank
not
you.
part of that.
Okay. Village mayors, do you have anything you'd like to add to this? Discussion? Thank you. Chris?
Yeah, next neighbors.
And if anybody didn't get a chance to tell their story, can you just repeat how best to get in touch? Absolutely. And so, again, persistence is key. Continue to share your stories. What I'm going to do is write a letter to the Public Service Commission saying I was here tonight. I'm going to detail the different things that both microphones. Sorry. I'm going to write a letter saying that I attended tonight and summarize the stories that were shared. I am then going to send it along with the video to the Public Service Commission asking that they put it into the record. Our organization has these Shine a Light brochures, and I'll leave them. You can keep them here at the town hall, take them to the church, give them to your neighbors. On the back is our hotline number at the bottom, and then where you can file complaints. And again, if you're having ongoing issues, keep updating it. Get a complaint number and keep sending. Send bills, send copies so they can see what's going on. And keep in touch with us. I'll stay in touch with you all as everything goes forward. And again, thank you for having me here tonight.
We are also going to read a resolution later on in the meeting. We don't expect people to stay, but we are going to do we're proposing a resolution addressing the issues and sending it directly to Central Hudson.
Can I just say
Sure.
one thing? As people are leaving, you won't hear the local resolution on this, but you should know that one of the key takeaways Laurie said is that this is not just symbolic action. Obviously, at a local level, we don't have the ability to regulate Central Hudson, but as Laurie said, the PSC, the record is open right now. They are considering what penalties to impose, and so this local resolution, which says the board supports the fact that no more money should be taken from customers to pay for this, the fact that it says the board supports that the PSC should fine Central Hudson and that money should go back to ratepayers that have been hurt by it, and that it encourages, so this is not symbolic action, this is about making sure it goes on the record as the PSC is considering whether or not to impose fines. And if enough local municipalities in Central Hudson's district pass this local law, calling and supporting on the PSC to fine and pass it back to Central Hudson customers, it's not a symbolic act. It's an act to say to Central Hudson that all these local communities in Central Hudson, we can't let them do this.
Right. We plan on working on it this evening, and then I know the Village of Cold Spring and the Village of Nelsonville are also going to address it in their own meeting. So thank you so much, Jason. If everybody can remember, we are having a meeting, so if you could take it downstairs, we like to proceed. If you guys could all just go out and go downstairs, we'd really appreciate it. We have a meeting to run. Thank you. All right, so we're getting an hour late start here, so. Okay, Celia, you want to close the doors? Can you close them? If you guys could all go downstairs, please. Throw them out, Kel. I don't quite understand it. Okay, approval of minutes, monthly meeting, February 2nd, 2023. Can I get a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Workshop meeting, February 15th, 2023. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Committee reports, Conservation Board. Let's make them quick.
Conservation Board met on February 14th. There was one case, 168 South Mountain Pass, putting on a new addition near a wetlands buffer. The Conservation Board scheduling a site visit. Next meeting, February February, 2 weeks from now. Not next Tuesday, but the Tuesday after, 7:30 p.m.
All right, that was fantastic.
We're making up time.
Recreation.
Recreation Commission did not meet this week because of the snowstorm, but we're happy to say that summer camp enrollment will start March 20th. So be sure to check the Philipstown Recreation Department website. The Recreation Department also had a wonderful Valentine's luncheon for seniors on February 15th. We had at least 70 seniors from Philipstown attend, and it was a festive occasion. And the next meeting is the last Tuesday of this month, which I believe is March 29th. Just double check.
Philipstown Hub, that's you.
28th, yes. The Philipstown Hub did give me a report. They are doing a Narcan training, and they would like to invite anyone in Philipstown who has not had the training. Thursday, March 23rd at 6:30 p.m. It's for free at the Desmond Fish Library. And it's also, the Hub is collaborating with the Prevention Council of Putnam County. The Hub, you can register on Eventbrite if you go to the Philipstown Hub website. The Hub also received 200 fentanyl strips and is preparing a free test on how to use a fentanyl test strip. And they are continuing their weekly senior community conversations. So every Friday at the Philipstown Friendship Center, they are meeting with seniors at 10:15 a.m. for any seniors who are interested. They are having conversations. They've had over 50 new participants from the senior community involved in these conversations, which just began in January. So that's a major accomplishment. And they're also bringing therapy dogs and handlers into the Hub on the first Friday of the month. They're also bringing them to the senior-led conversations for any seniors that are interested in pet therapy. The metrics for the Hub for the month of February, they had 49 open complex cases, 253 participant contacts during the month, and to date, year to date, 2,561 participant contacts in Philipstown, which is great.
Thank you. A couple things I'd like. Narcan training is so simple. I encourage anybody to take it. It's very simple. You could save a life like that. It's really a miracle to watch it work. It's so easy.
Yeah, no, it's gotten easier over the years.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, right now it's very, very simple to do, but I got trained many years ago, and it's gotten so simple.
The other thing is the drug box that we have in Town Hall has been, did we seal it up? We were going to seal it. It's got to be sealed.
Put a sign over it. Yeah,
It's
not
not,
usable at the moment.
The federal government and the state controllers of the program do not allow us, the town of Philipstown, to house that box any longer. It has to be an active police station or a medical facility. So Drug World, I confirmed Drug World has one, so instead of coming here, you can go to Drug World and drop it off. But the med return box will no longer be in service in Town Hall, just letting you know. They're coming to unbolt it and take it away. It worked great. I mean, it was
Yeah, it was. A lot of
heavily
people
used.
used it. Yes.
Heavily used.
Heavily used.
Yes.
Unfortunately, it's
It
gone.
was definitely a
We
convenient
installed
thing.
cameras, so we were compliant, and now we just have cameras. So.
Maybe turn the camera
Planning
on.
Board.
Planning Board, okay, we had a big agenda on the Planning Board, but I'll make it quick. Planning Board met on February 16th. First thing on the agenda was Danes Lumber. They've been through the Planning Board the last several months or so. There was a public hearing. There was no public comment whatsoever, which was a good thing. So the public hearing was closed, and prepared resolutions for next month to give them approval. Old business, Stepping Stone is a daycare center up in Blue Devil Way. They're expanding their capabilities up there. They had a site visit back in on December 12th. There was some concerns. The biggest concern is where they want to move the playground. They're moving the playground closer to some houses, so that's being addressed. Was referred to the County Planning Board, North Highlands Firehouse, and a public hearing will be scheduled for March 16th, which is the next meeting. Coinsel in Whiffle, it's called, on 168 South Mountain Pass. They're looking to do an addition to their house. The issue right there is there's already in steep slopes, and there's some wetlands involved as well. This was referred to the Conservation Board, and so they're holding off on the planning, a public hearing until the Conservation Board weighs in on this. Garrison Golf Course has been in here for over a year or so now. Anyway, the only want to acknowledge that the Planning Board received their DEC application, and we'll address it at next month's meeting because they just got it the night before. Under new business, Bach Veterinarian, who was currently over in the Anatelli's building over there, right next to Jug World, they closed, and now they're looking to move their operations up to 475 East Fishkill Road, right not that far from the firehouse. This is going to require a special use permit, but they did classify it as a minor project, and it will be a site visit this Sunday at 9:30. Meeting was adjourned at 8:55.
Thank you, Bob. Zoning.
Zoning, we had a meeting on February 13th, 7:30. There was a public hearing. The public hearing was held as one neighbor expressed concerns about drainage and runoff from the participant's property and asked that they come back with a landscape plan to satisfy the neighbors. And the new business was Garrison Station Plaza, 19 Garrison Landing. The applicant presented their plan to construct a deck. Public hearing was scheduled for March 13th at our next meeting, and there was no old business. So our next meeting is March 13th.
All right, thank you.
Been quick.
Highway, submitted by Highway Superintendent Adam Hotelling. Milder weather than normal temperatures allowed the crew to continue clearing pipes and pipe maintenance, and also allowed the filling potholes and putting down some cold patch. Highway Department received approximately 15 phone calls or emails. They spent approximately $11,000 on vehicle maintenance. I'd also like to thank them for building the temporary road we had to put in on our 403 from our well we just drilled over there. They did that road, so I want to thank them for that as well. That was a lot of work to get that done. I appreciate that. As everyone knows, we haven't had much snow. We had snow the other day. The crew was out for almost 24 hours taking care of the roads at that. So thank you for doing all that overtime.
They look wonderful. And the exciting
yes.
The last piece of the puzzle at the highway garage is finally installed. The missing Ukrainian breaker that we needed to fire up the building was installed yesterday. I was up there and all the lights were out and the guy was pulling all the wires in and hooking them up. And I went by today and all the lights were on, so I'm assuming it should be fully usable. The only part now is switching internet, phones, everything over.
Yeah, I got to just get it scheduled. I talked to both companies that need to do that, so within the next few weeks, they will be in there permanently. The office space will be occupied.
And then that eyesore trailer that's in front of the beautiful new building will be gone, and the new approach will be completed. So,
right, and then in the spring, late summer, we'll be paving that. We'll make it really look good.
It'll look fantastic. All righty, thank you. Building and land acquisitions, I have nothing other than the comments on the highway garage.
I just want to add one thing on the building and land. This is just go get down to Garrison Water District. Okay? As we've been talking for quite some time, we had a substantial leak down there. We finally come to a point where we're running a new pipe across on one side of the tracks. That should be completed by Monday, and then we have to get the water tested by the county. And once that water is tested and we get the approval, we'll bypass our current leak, and hopefully that's going to help the situation down here. And then later on in the year, we'll be able to hopefully hook up to the new well we just drilled as well. So
filling the river with water.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went down the other night and took some pictures. It looks great.
Yeah,
it's almost done.
Finished the last 7 feet of it today. Yeah.
Cemetery Committee.
Nothing to report for the Cemetery Committee.
Covered in snow. Putnam County Legislator is not available this evening, so let's get right into the agenda. First one we took care of already.
We did 1 and 2,
1 and
so
2.
we're on
Number
3, which is the resolution in support of actions by the New York State Public Service Commission and New York State Committee on Investigations and Government Operations to address harms caused to the town of Philipstown Central Hudson utility customers as a result of systemic billing errors, and this is a roll call vote.
Okay, Jason, I'm going to defer to you and let you go ahead and read this resolution. You brought this all to us and put this all together.
Sorry,
and I'm really appreciative of the work that you've done on this.
All right. Do you read this whole thing?
You can. I think you're excited to.
Okay. Thanks, Supervisor. Whereas the town of Philipstown is located in the service territory of the Central Hudson Gas and Electric Corporation, Central Hudson, and whereas Central Hudson is the only regulated transmission and distribution utility serving the town of Philipstown as a provider of electric and natural gas, and whereas the town of Philipstown values the work of Central Hudson in maintaining transmission lines and restoring electricity to residents from down lines as quickly as possible, And whereas residents of the town of Philipstown have been experiencing problems with the bills issued by Central Hudson for utility service, such as receiving no bills for several months at a time, receiving multiple bills per month with different amounts due, and issues with estimated billing, inaccurate billing, budget billing, and uncharacteristically high bills. And whereas these billing problems have caused confusion, frustration, and financial hardship for town residents, and whereas Central Hudson has often failed to satisfactorily address these billing problems, and whereas the said billing problems have been experienced by customers throughout the Hudson Valley within Central Hudson's service territory, resulting in numerous complaints being filed with the New York State Public Service Commission, PSC, and whereas the PSC launched 3 investigations into Central Hudson in 2022, with 1 investigation focused on customer service and billing issues, and whereas the PSC released an investigative report in December of 2022 that determined that the said problems in billing are a direct result of Central Hudson's upgrade to its customer information and billing system on September 1st, 2021, and whereas the PSC's said report found that Central Hudson put its upgraded customer information and billing system into operation despite having information indicating that 1, deficiencies in training, testing, and overall readiness rendered the system incapable of handling complex billing scenarios, and 2, the system still contained hundreds of programming errors and defects. And whereas the PSC report found that Central Hudson affirmatively represents that it has spent, over $88 million on this upgrade to its customer information and billing system, and it is estimated that Central Hudson's ratepayers will have paid $21 million towards this project through increased billing fees through June 30th, 2023. And whereas the New York State Senate Committee on Investigations and Government Operations report states that the committee will monitor the enforcement proceedings and assess if clarifying legislation is needed to ensure proper penalties are levied and funds are redirected back to customers harmed by systemic billing failures. Now, therefore, be it resolved as follows. 1, that the town board encourages town residents who have experienced billing problems with Central Hudson and who have unsuccessfully tried to resolve such problems with Central Hudson to file a complaint with the New York State Department of Public Services Office of Consumer Services, and thereby to seek direct resolution of their individual customer problem or concern. 2, that the town board supports the PSC taking action to ensure that no further money be collected from Central Hudson ratepayers for the failed upgrade to its customer information and billing system. And 3, that if the PSC determines that imposition of fines against Central Hudson are justified, the town board supports the PSC imposing such fines and remitting the funds generated thereby to customers of Central Hudson who have been harmed by the aforesaid billing problems. And 4, that the town board supports the New York State Senate Committee on Investigations and Government Operations adopting legislation if necessary to ensure proper penalties are levied against Central Hudson and funds are redirected back to customers harmed by systemic billing failures. And 5, that a certified copy of this resolution shall be sent to the PSC, the New York State Senate Committee on Investigations and Government Operations, and the town's state senator and assemblymen. No wonder they write shorter bills.
Thank you. You guys don't have to read it in your meeting now. Just go to the video. Perfect. Okay, so can I get a motion to accept? Should I have to read it again? No. To accept the motion as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, Councilwoman Farrell.
I vote aye.
Councilman Angel.
Aye.
Councilman Flaherty.
Aye.
Councilwoman Cotter.
Aye.
And I vote aye. So it's passed unanimously. So we will forward it on to the parties that are mentioned. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Supervisor.
And mayors, thank you. And boards.
Next is a resolution authorizing Supervisor Van Tassel to sign the Continental Village Fire Department contract for 2023.
Okay, so this is something we work on every year. We really appreciate the work of the Continental Village Fire Department. Great group of gentlemen and ladies do the job very well and always ready with their budget presentation and very thorough. I appreciate the work they do. Keep it up and stay safe, gentlemen. So can I get a motion to accept the Continental Village contract?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? And I vote aye. Thank you.
Next is a resolution authorizing the undertaking of a government operations climate action plan and authorizing the submission of related documents to the New York State DEC Office for Climate Change for consideration of points towards Climate Smart Communities certification for Philipstown, and this is a roll call vote.
And this is Martha's baby. Would you like to come up and make a quick comment, Martha? Are you good? We discussed this thoroughly. I'm not going to read this whole resolution, but I appreciate the work that you've done on it. And the town, what's our level now? Bronze, correct? We're working towards silver. And this is the start of it right here. Yes, all right. Well, thank you so much. Okay, so can I get a motion to accept the Undertake a Government Operations Climate Action Plan?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Councilwoman Farrell.
Aye.
Councilman Angel.
Aye.
Councilman Flaherty.
Aye.
Councilwoman Cotter.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you, Martha. Get to work. Get it done.
Next is a resolution authorizing Supervisor Van Tassel to sign the Inter-Municipal Agreement regarding shared equipment with the Town of Cortlandt, Village of Croton-on-Hudson, Village of Buchanan, and City of Peekskill for 2023.
Okay, this is something else we do basically on a yearly basis as well. It's so we can work for each other. Most of the time it comes out during natural disasters when there's a need for a specific piece of equipment in other towns. So it allows us to do this without a lot of issues. So can I get a motion to approve the intermunicipal agreement with the said towns and villages?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Okay, so as per the town attorney, he's recommending we table item 7, so we'll go.
Okay.
Can I get a motion to table item 7?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Next is a resolution approving the Garrison Volunteer Ambulance Corps' 2022 Ambulance Company Posting Certification and Sponsor Approval for the Length of Service Award Program.
Okay, before we do that, I would just like to mention and give my condolences to the Tudor family who has lost Derek Tudor Sr., who served for the Garrison Ambulance Corps for a long time, very often was the driver of Garrison Ambulance. So appreciate the service and our condolences to the Tudor family. Okay, so we've looked through the service award program. I have no issues with it. Anybody else review it?
It's tough making these
Derek
points.
Tudor Jr. made the points.
Yeah.
Derek's a wonderful part of that operation.
Yeah.
There's a few others.
Yeah, but it's
So it's been reviewed by their board, so I would entertain a motion to approve the LoSAP program for Garrison Ambulance.
so moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Next is a resolution authorizing Supervisor Van Tassel to sign the renewal agreement between the CSEA Employee Benefit Fund and the Town of Philipstown for a dental plan.
We just got this today, so this is the same, what's that? This paperwork just came to us today. We had not seen it prior, so I'm going to suggest that we just have the town attorney review this before we approve it, because, Steve, if you won't mind. And we,
I don't mind. You might need to run it by your labor council, though.
okay, and then we can vote on it next week if we're going to meet
Sure.
next week.
Yeah, we can
All
talk
right.
about it.
Thank
So
you.
we'll table this?
Let's table this as well.
Somebody want to make a motion to
I
table
make the
it?
motion, we table this until our next meeting,
Second.
after it's reviewed by our town attorney.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Next is to schedule any workshops or meetings. We have a workshop request from Nat Prentice to discuss some comp plan stuff. We have a workshop request from our Natural Resource Officer, Max Garfinkel. We have to schedule interviews for the planning board position, and there was mention of moving the regular meeting in April from April 6th to April 13th, so.
Okay, so what?
And-
I'm sorry. What did-
Sorry, just to,
Yep.
one more thing, on March 15th, if you would like to schedule a workshop for March 15th, we cannot start until at least 8 o'clock because there's youth court up here, so.
So Nat has been asking for a workshop for the longest time, so why don't we, what was his selection? Did he
He
have?
didn't, he just asked for a early March, so really
so-
that would be the 8th, that would be next.
The 15th or the 22nd, if you don't mind me bugging you.
15th?
The 15th, we well, like I
We
said.
could start at 8 o'clock, is that all right?
You could start at 8 o'clock.
Versus 7:30? Yeah, that's fine. Well, so we'll do Nat and the comp plan on the 15th?
3:15, and that'll start at 8.
8 p.m.
8 p.m.
She doesn't have to, it's a workshop, yeah.
We're gonna do max
Do you
two
want
that
the
same night?
NRO the same night, or?
No, I think Max requires a full evening, so.
Okay.
And what were he put some dates that he was available.
You verbally told me he requested it. I didn't get that email.
Okay, let me see what his email said. I thought you were copied on that as well.
Can I suggest that we do the CCA, so on March 22nd, for the reason, because of the timeline.
Yep.
I didn't know there was a request for CCA, so that's an added request.
So let me just give this information to the board. I sent an email a couple weeks ago. Just the CCA timeline is the new CCA electricity supply contract has gone out. Right. All of the bids come back on March 21st. So all of the bids with all the different options. Right. The CCA municipalities have to decide what they're going to select by March 27th. So March 22nd would be, we would have all the bids.
And then we can look at it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. So let's do that the 22nd. And Max is available on the 8th. So let's do the 8th with Max.
So, all right, hold on. Yeah, I'm gonna write all this down, and then.
3:15.
3/8, 3:15, and 3:22.
Yeah, but 3:15 is not starting till 8
8
p.m.
p.m.,
Just mark
right,
that
yep,
down.
yep.
The other two will start at 7:30. Okay. And then, do you want to schedule interviews? I mean, we do have several resumes for that position.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think the month of March looks pretty solid at this point, right? Would you,
Well, could we do them on the 15th and use the downstairs conference room?
You could probably do that.
Before 8 p.m.?
oh yeah, before 8. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we could start earlier.
So
So why don't we figure on being here at 7 that night? Because you're going to hear a few of them, right? And we'll stay downstairs.
I'm trying to remember how many resumes we got. I think there's.
4.
I thought there was more than
Oh, really?
4.
And if
So
we
do you
don't
want to?
get- if we don't get through all of them, we'll just do it another night.
Okay.
Well, yeah, find how many there are.
So start that at 7.
7.
Okay.
Do 15-minute slots. And we'll
Yeah,
do 4 of
that's
them.
it, yeah.
Okay. And what the regular meeting? I know someone had mentioned possibly moving it from April 6th to April
Yeah, April
13th.
6th is,
Holy Thursday.
Thursday, the schools are closed as well that week.
I don't know if I'm going to the 13th.
I think people will
So
be-
April 13th. I know you won't be here.
Reminder that I am out of here.
All right, well,
Won't see you till May.
all right, so we'll work around that, but April 13th.
Okay. So just to clarify, we have a workshop on March 8th at 7:30.
Yep.
We have a workshop on March 15th at 8 p.m., which before that at 7 p.m. you will do planning board interviews.
Yep.
And then you have a workshop for March 22nd with the CCA. Okay.
Why don't you send out that in the schedule tomorrow in an email?
Sure.
Thanks, Tara.
John says yes, and you do.
What's that?
No, the 8 p.m. meeting will be up
Be up
here.
here.
Downstairs is for.
Downstairs is for the planning board meeting,
Yeah.
interviews.
Okay, code enforcement monthly report.
So this is for the month of February. The total fees collected were $26,364.65. There were 28 total permits issued, 1 new 1 or 2 family dwellings, 4 additions, alterations, or repairs to residential buildings, 24 all other permits including pools, decks, sheds, plumbing, HVAC, 23 certificates of occupancy were issued, and 1 stop work order was issued.
Okay, great job. Thank you, Greg. Keep it coming in. Okay, any other business that may come before the town board? So I did get a notification from the Village of Cold Spring today that they are going to be connecting the existing water system to the aqueduct system. So I'll just read off what I was sent. Likely within the next 2 to 3 weeks, work will begin to make the permanent connection of the Village of Cold Spring water supply to the Catskill Aqueduct some Philipstown residents draw on that municipal supply. The reconnection will provide a backup water supply in times of extreme drought, like we experienced last summer, as well as during critical impending repairs to the upper and lower reservoir dams. The job site is in the swath of open land perpendicular to Fishkill Road. It's right by the highway garage. Near the town's highway garage, the mayor's office will follow up with direct communications to adjoining neighbors, but here are the things we should all be aware of. Once begun, the work is likely to take about 3 months to complete. Most of the work will take place off the roadway, but a portion will take place in the roadway near the highway garage. Please anticipate limited traffic delays during the project. So years ago, they were connected. If there was an issue, they could always tie into the Catskill water system, but that was disconnected, and now the village has applied and worked very hard to get that connection remade. So it's a big step for them, because I know there is work pending at the dam, which will reduce their capacity of holding. So a couple other things that I did, I met with Congressman Lawler via Zoom the other day. We spoke at length about a few projects in the town, as well as the imposing housing compact that's being proposed by New York State. I also spoke with Dana Levenberg about that as well, and among other things. And then yesterday, Mayor Foley, Mayor Winward, and myself met with the Lieutenant Governor. Antonio Delgado was in town. We walked around, spent some time in the cheese shop. He was quite sincere. He seems really grounded, like a true gentleman. I wish I had this information from you yesterday, because I certainly would have presented it to him about the Central Hudson issue. I also addressed, we all did address, well, there's some infrastructure projects that the two mayors addressed. One is the dam, one is the sewer for the village of Nelsonville. The other was the housing compact that's being proposed. I was notified by the town attorney about it. I think it's going to happen from the sounds of things. It seems like his opinion, it's coming.
It may very well. The Association of Towns just held their annual meeting, and they've formulated a resolution which they're encouraging municipalities, potentially affected municipalities, to enact, which doesn't say don't do anything, because it's probably just not realistic. But what it does say is that this is a decision and a draft which should be made in the legislature and not by the governor by fiat in the budget. I can provide you with the draft of it if the board's interested in adopting that kind of thing, and then you can send it on to the governor and your assemblyman and your senator. It'll probably help the Central Association of Towns as well, so that they can make as much capital of it as they can.
It's intimidating for us, for the town of Philipstown. I encouraged him to bring to the governor that each town is really unique, and for us to inventory that many homes for the town of Philipstown would be really difficult, if not impossible. Plus, the school isn't equipped to handle it, and there is money apparently coming with it, but I don't know if it's capable of statewide. You're talking, So the other question I've brought up to him is the fact that Philipstown rezoned in 2010, and we had the comp plan update, which addresses additional housing and encourages apartments in the house. I can't, the word is accessory apartments. I couldn't think of the word. It encourages accessory apartment, hamlet development. He said that, that's something they didn't consider, and it could be a factor into the timeline that we would have to produce our 1% of housing. So we'll see what happens. But there was, every meeting that I was on with other communities, it was the same topic, this housing compact. So one other thing I'd like to mention, that our attorney, Mr. Gaba, if you go into Hudson Valley Magazine, top attorneys for municipal law, you'll see Mr. Gaba's name. So. No picture though, Steve. I think
No picture.
I think you should have had a picture.
No trophies, no nothing.
Well, I applaud you. So, and I think that's everything I have. One more announcement. We have 3 firefighters from Philipstown graduating from Firefighter 1 tonight, which is a big event. It's a long course. Excuse me, I can't even talk anymore. Aaron Leonard from Cold Spring, William Edom from Cold Spring, and Kevin Van Tassel from the North Highlands Fire Department is graduating. And I missed his graduation, so congratulations, gentlemen. So I think that's all I have. Anybody else?
I would like to just say go Blue Devils on
Oh.
Saturday, the boys' basketball team
Yep.
going to the state championship.
No, that's
Section,
section.
not the state.
We're-
Yes, because of
And then go to regionals, and then they go to states.
The county center,
Westchester County.
Westchester County Center, 12:15. It's fun. It's fun. We'll see you down there, Richard. It's fun. Anything else from the board? No. Okay, call on the public. Anything from the public? No? Everybody's had enough? Me too. Vacancies, we have one on the planning board. We're going to do interviews this month. Approval of vouchers. General.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? And I vote aye. Highway.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? And I vote aye. Continental Village Park District.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Continental Village Water District.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? And I vote aye. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Thank you all.
Thank you.